Hello, and I welcome you all to Global News Factory. I'm your host, Vikrant. We are covering three topics in this video. First, we talk about a US proposal, a plan to form a new group of superpowers. Washington is now trying to bring Russia, China, India, US, and Japan in one room. We discuss what are the intentions of Uncle Sam behind this move. Then we go to Kiev. Zelensky has now confirmed what we at GNF said almost a week ago. Andrii Yermak is still the boss of Ukraine, and both Zelensky and Yermak are plotting a new corruption scheme. And in the end, we ask a striking question. Are American officials trying to sabotage the Air India crash investigation? Let's start. First of all, let's talk about the bigger version of the US national security strategy. This is not a casual PDF. This is the manual that tells Washington what to do with the world for years, maybe decades. So let's walk through it nice and slow. The headline idea is bold. The paper, this document, wants a new club of big powers, not the usual G7 rich and democratic only entry rule, a different model. It proposes a Core-5, the C5 group, who is in the US, China, Russia, India, and Japan. Four of them are huge countries by people count and also by size. The plan is to hold regular summits with set themes. Now, this part says something loud without shouting. It quietly admits that trying to isolate Russia did not work. That policy failed. Even Trump had pushed the idea of bringing Russia back into a G8 like setup. G8. Now, the paper goes further. It hints at building a whole new group instead of fixing the old one. New furniture, new rules, new power map. And if you see Europe is not invited, no EU seat, no big European power at the main table, that is a message. The US is signaling that Europe is a declining force and that the future conversations must be held with China, India, and Russia. The rising players, the ones with growth, scale, and leverage. And now a question that makes you raise an eyebrow. Why is Japan in this group? Japan is a serious economy, yes, but it is also a country with limited defense muscle and serious demographic headwinds. So why add Tokyo? My read is simple. Two reasons. First, the US wants two votes for itself, two seats, two votes, two seats. And if you cannot bring Europe, bring someone from Asia. Plenty of slaves there, right? Second, Japan is the perfect chess piece against China in the Indo-Pacific. The paper clearly says, the NSS, that the US sees China as a rival. Japan fits that script like a tailored suit. It is close to both Russia and China. It sits near the action. It can poke both giants without crossing oceans. So yes, C5 can boost dialogue, but it can also create room for sabotage through Japan, working in sync with the US. If Washington truly wants clean conversation with the big four, it should be honest and it should go C4. Leave Japan out. Keep it tight. Japan, under the new administration of Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi, looks more hostile than ever. Maybe that is exactly why the US is handing Tokyo a seat, a reward for loyalty, a tool for pressure. I want to hear from you. How do you feel about it, about the C5 group? Should Russia, China, India even consider this proposal? Use the comment box. Tell me your view. Keep it sharp. I will read them. Now to chapter 2. Making Europe great again. Mega. Yes, that is the phrase. The idea is to build ties not with the EU as a bloc, but with European countries that share a right-leaning mindset. The paper features Austria, Hungary, Italy, and Poland. The aim is to work more with them and pull them away from the European Union. Slice the EU into friendlier pieces. If you ask me, Serbia and Czechia also belong on that list. Both fit the mood the authors want. Both can tilt the balance in Central and Eastern Europe. If the US wants a Europe that is softer toward Washington's line, it will try to collect capitals one by one. Then there comes third big admission. The paper says the age of American hegemony is over. The exact line is clear, I'm quoting. Hegemony is the wrong thing to want and it was not achievable, unquote. Sounds humble, sounds wise, but then look at actions. Invading Iran, threatening to invade Venezuela, punishing countries for buying Russian oil with sanctions. These moves send a very different signal. They say the hegemony instinct is alive. The words have changed, the reflex has not. That gap between speech and action is the real story. It is the Washington echo. We don't want hegemony, we just want everything. Okay, back to the C5 question because this idea is the heart of the paper, the C5. The proposal looks like panic dressed in protocol. The US knows it is a declining power, and so are many of its allies. Meanwhile, BRICS is surging, powered by three big engines: Russia, India, and China. That is the new triangle of gravity. Putin's recent visit to India rang alarm bells in Washington. It told the US that BRICS is no hobby club, it is a serious platform with real momentum. So now the US wants to be in that room. It wants to sit at the table. It wants a microphone when BRICS style decisions shape markets, money, and security. The C5 is a US attempt to step onto a stage it can no longer control but still wants to headline. The No Europe choice shows who the US thinks matters tomorrow. So, what should happen next? If you are Russia, China, or India, you look at C5 as a bargaining chip, not a gift. You ask, does this forum respect our core interests? If yes, explore it. If not, walk away because the US is not offering a free seat, it is asking for a lifeline. BRICS is rising, the global order is shifting. The question is simple: will BRICS bail the US out, or will it let the new world take form on its own terms? Again, feel free to use the comment box and share your views. Moving on, we at JNF were the first to report that Andrii Yermak, former chief of staff of Zelensky's office, never really left power. He simply moved behind the curtain and kept pulling the strings. Now we have fresh confirmation. Zelensky has hinted he might never appoint Yermak's successor. In fact, he says he may abolish the presidential office altogether. Let me quote Zelensky here, word for word. You know, I will be frank with you, there are so many issues and proposals, exchanges of views. Honestly, the war is far more important. So it feels like it would be easier to abolish the office than appoint someone, unquote. Did you catch that? Easier to delete the office than hire a new chief. Under Yermak, the presidential office handled everything, from military to defense. Every wire ran through that desk. Every lever was under that roof. And now they want to scrap the building, the whole building. Who will do all those jobs now? Of course, Yermak will, from behind the curtains, as usual. The show goes on just without the signboard. See, this is not only about structure, it is about secrets. Zelensky and Yermak do not want to take chances with their dirty files. If a new chief walks in and that person turns out to be an American plant, those secrets could breathe fresh air. Emails might talk, papers might sing. So, what is the safe move? Remove the office, remove the risk. You keep the power in the shadows, keep the keys in the same pocket. And when power hides, money follows. We already have an example. Russia's intel agency, the SVR, says Kiev has a new trick to siphon Western taxpayer money. The claim is simple and ugly. Buy artillery shells at a low price and then sell them to yourself at a high price, with friends in the middle. The SVR says the scheme runs through the Czech Ammunition Initiative with a Polish intermediary. There is a claim that this firm will buy shells in Eastern Europe and the global south for up to $1,000 per shell, and then it will relabel them as Polish made. After that, the shells are transferred to the Ukrainian military for $5,000 each. One shell, five times the price. A neat margin, a neat hole in someone's pocket. Who pays for this? The list is familiar: the UK, Germany, France, Denmark, Norway, and other Western states. Western taxpayers put money in, middlemen take a slice, labels get a makeover, and the shell arrives with a luxury price tag. You put it together, and the pattern is clear. If Zelensky abolishes the president's office, he removes a doorway that could let in new eyes. If there is no new chief of staff, there is no new witness, no one with official access to sensitive files, no one to ask, hey, why this contract? Why this markup? Why this company? The less daylight, the smoother the operation. The fewer fingerprints, the fewer questions. Yermak's style has always been central control, one center, many cables. If the office vanishes on paper, the cables don't vanish in real life. They simply run under the carpet. The voice at the end of the line stays the same. The orders sound the same. The outcomes look the same. Moving on. The Air India crash probe has turned into a tug of war between Indian authorities and American officials. In Delhi, many sources say the US side is trying to hijack the process and pin the blame on the pilots. That is the charge, and it is getting louder. The first big clash came in late June. Two experts from America's National Transportation Safety Board, or the NTSB, arrived in Delhi. Officials in Delhi had arranged a late night military flight to take them to a remote lab. The goal was simple: extract the data from the black box, away from noise, away from pressure. But the NTSB said no. They cited safety concerns about the trip. The US Embassy stepped in, stopped the transfer, and kept the team in Delhi. And then came the push. US officials pressed India to extract the data from black box in Delhi or simply fly the box to Washington. After back and forth, authorities in India agreed to a middle path: decode the data in Delhi itself, but use NTSB equipment. Soon, a fresh fight, this time over what the early data actually says. American officials who reviewed cockpit audio said the first officer seemed to try a recovery while the captain stayed composed. They also leaned toward a darker idea that the event may have been intentional. Officials in India are not signing off on that. They say the data is not enough, not yet. No stamp, no theory. They want more evidence on the table before any label is fixed to the crew. And then came round three, a dispute over the preliminary report. Officials in India allege the American side leaked details to the media, and the leak, they say, was shaped to blame the Indian pilots. Delhi calls it unprofessional. Why tell the press before authorities in India publish the findings first? Why not keep the process clean and quiet until the official release? Those are the questions. And now, the next chapter. This week, Indian officials are flying to Washington, another face to face, this time with US and Boeing officials in the room. The Indian team is expected to present its latest findings. That includes information from the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder of the ill-fated Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The boxes do not lie, but they need context. They need caution. So where are we? On one side, pressure to read the data one way. On the other, a demand to wait for the full picture. One camp sees intent, the other says, not so fast. In the middle, a grieving nation, a tense partnership, and a global company, Boeing, with a lot at stake. The final question is blunt. Are American officials trying to sabotage this investigation to give Boeing a clean chit? We will not jump to an answer here, but we will follow every detail. We will keep asking for transparency and we will keep the spotlight on the facts, not the spin. And that is all for this episode. Thank you very much for joining and watching GNF.